Welcome back, patrons, to another tutorial. Now today I'm going to be inlaying some 24 karat gold into this pendant, and I've done a tutorial on inlaying gold wire, but this space that I'm filling in with gold is a little thicker than the wire, and so a few people were asking to do one where I use multiple pieces of wire to fill up a space. And the amazing thing with 24 karat gold wire is it will fuse to itself. But there's a few things that need to happen. It needs to be fully annealed, and so I just have gone over this with a torch very lightly, and you can see, I mean, it's very soft. It just folds like that. And the other thing is the ends need to meet. They can't overlap or else it won't fuse. And I'm gonna just kind of do this so you can see. So this is just another piece, but they need to meet side by side when they're hammered in, and then they will fuse together into one. So I'm gonna show you how I do that right now. And so I prepared this channel the same way that I have in my other gold inlay videos, where I've undercut a little bit with a flat graver and then use the tool to kind of undercut the edge a little bit, and I also use that same tool to rough up the bottom, and this just gives some teeth, you know, a space for the wire to bite into the metal. So now that I've got that all set, I'm going to go ahead and hammer this in, and I want to make sure I've got a decent angle for you. I'm hammering this in with my graver mock and a carbide tip. It's just flat. You know, same kind of thing I'd use for my graver, except the tip is just flat. I just want to make sure I'm not blocking it with my hand. Okay, so make sure I can do this. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. So if you've cut the teeth right, this should sit in pretty quickly. So let's give it a try. Now, this is actually good. Not good because it's what I want, but it's good to be able to show you. So, the gold is not sticking. So, when that's happening, all that means is I need to go back in with my tool and undercut the edges a little more. So I'm gonna do that right now. Okay, so this is the same tool that I used before. And I'll just kind of show you guys, but this basically just undercuts the edges a little more, and the teeth, it wasn't biting, maybe because these weren't cut deep enough, so I'm just going to go over them a little bit. And really make sure that the gold has a place to stick. I want to make sure I'm not losing focus on this. But I'm essentially just doing things on each side just to get a nice spot for the gold to stick in. Okay, now I'll make sure to refocus just to make sure that you can see everything that I'm doing. But that should do it. And I can try to rehammer in this piece of gold that I was doing before, but something that you might find is that once you've hammered it out and it kind of flattens that wire, it's not going to want to inlay well again. So if that's the case, I'm just going to clip that little end and start. And I've only used, you know, a teeny tiny bit on the end of this wire, so I'm not really worried about it. Okay, so I'm going to just go in and see, and it might be enough that I can still use the same piece of wire and it might stick. So I'll give that a try and we'll see. No, it didn't. So again, this is good. You know, I don't want every tutorial to be everything working out for me perfectly every time, because it doesn't really help you guys if things don't work out very well for you sometimes. And it's also good to know that, you know, even though I've done this a lot, there are always things that I can improve on, and there's definitely times that I still have to try more than once to get something to go. Alright, so let's give this one more try. Okay, much better. So that gold before just didn't have enough area to bite in. And re-trying to smash in the piece that I had done before, it had probably already work hardened enough, so it didn't really go into the groove very well. So what I'm going to do is hammer this in all the way. In my other video I showed you how that you can do this by hand, and I'm using my pneumatic system, but you can hammer this in by hand. It doesn't have to be pneumatic. Okay, so I'm at the end right here, as you can see. And it might be tempting just to wiggle this gold part back and forth to break it off, but don't do that. Use your flat graver. You can clip it too, but I find a flat graver is the easiest. And then when your flat graver is with some pressure, you just wiggle this back and forth and it pops right off. Now this is really where it gets important, so I'm going to make sure I'm focused in. Okay, so I'm about to inlay the other wire. Now you can see that the gold that I've hammered in doesn't fill in this groove the whole way. And that's why I need to add another wire. So I'm going to place it in here and get it lined up. And like I said before, the wires need to meet on the sides. I can't just put this over the top and hammer. It will never fuse and it will just mash and then fall out eventually. So I need to make sure that I'm coming in from the side and filling up this gap. So I'm going to get my wire lined up and then get ready to hammer it in. Now I'm just going very carefully, making sure that it's not popping up on the back end, and a good way to tell if you have overshot in any way or it's not sticking is that when you're hammering over here, it starts popping up back here. So I'm just always really careful in this stage. Okay, so once I've gotten to the end, I'm going to do the same thing. Use my flat graver or your clippers, but I'm just putting a little pressure here over the graver and then wiggling the gold back and forth. Okay, so now these pieces are both hammered in, but they're not necessarily fused, at least in the end here. So I'm going to go over with my carbide punch and I'm going to hammer it again on all sides until it really fills in this center gap here, and once that happens, the gold will be fusing to itself. So let's give that a shot. There you go. Now see, this is one of those stages too where a pneumatic system is really handy. Because you can hammer that by hand, but it's a lot easier just to kind of go over with a pneumatic system. Now I'm just taking this flat graver and I'm just clipping over this end. And you don't need to do this with a flat graver. You can come in with a file a little bit later and just file off that little bit. It's up to you. And I'm just holding this. I'm not using my pneumatic system to clip this little end. But it's 24 karat gold wire, so it comes off pretty easily. Okay, so that little bit is done, and maybe I'll do another example over on the other side to show you how it works again. Nope, look, same issue. Well, it locked in a little better on that side. So, it's always good to try. If one side doesn't work, you can just shift it over and try to get the other side to go. Because once you have one side locked in, you can get the gold to fuse to itself and it'll lock the whole piece in. So, if at first you fail, try again. I'm at the end, so I'm going to do the same thing with my flat graver and just clip off that little end. Wiggle it back and forth. And I have had to, at times I get this far and realize that the gold isn't really locked in there very well, and I have to chip it out, recut with my flat graver, and re-undercut the sides and do a whole thing to get it to stick in. But it's better doing that than having it fall out, when a client is wearing it or something. Still, it's not fun, but sometimes you just have to do that. So I'm going in and just trying to get this to stick so it can fuse to itself. Oop. Now, like I said before, this wasn't really sticking in there very well, so it might be something that I need to, instead of just trying to make it work, go in there again with my undercutting tool, which I have explained in my other videos, so I'm just kind of skipping over that part, but I'm just going to undercut the edges a little bit more to give it something more to bite into. And I might not have needed to do the whole length, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Now, just like the last one, I needed to clip off a little bit, so I'm going to clip off a little bit of this one too. Make sure you save it though, because it's still 24 karat gold wire. Okay. See, much better. This is always a good stage too to see how well your stones are sticking in there, because you're vibrating the surface so much. So I'm seeing that this sapphire here is just a little loose, which is fine, it's not falling out, but I'll go over that and tighten that up. Okay, so now I'm at the end. I'm going to just do the same thing and clip that off. Now I'm going to hammer the crap out of it just to get it to fuse together. And you'll see pretty soon if it's fusing or if it's falling apart. And so if they've overlapped too much, you'll see that one layer is just kind of squishing on top of the other and it's not fusing together. And if that happens, sometimes you can cut a little bit off with your graver, and other times you just have to take up the whole thing and try again. But like I said, with 24 karat gold, you're not really losing money, you're losing time, because you can keep that gold and either melt it or refine it, and you won't really lose money, but just the time it took you to inlay it. So that is locked in, and you can see that a little bit comes out the end here, and that's just because I'm displacing the gold when I'm hammering it. And that's also a way that you're actually not using as much gold as it looks like you are, because you're hammering in such a small layer and it's just filling in this space. And so there'll be a little extra on the side, but just clip that off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with my flat graver as well. And again, I'm holding this. I'm not doing this with pneumatic or even putting it in a handle. It's soft. So give that a try if you're trying to do some more gold inlay, and let me know if that helps. But again, the most important thing to note is that the wires need to meet. I'll try to do it with this to show you. The wires need to meet parallel. They need to come together parallel, and then you can hammer together and they'll fuse. If they're overlapping where one is on top, it will not fuse and you'll be very frustrated. But if they're meeting on the sides and they're well annealed, they will fuse together. So give that a try. Hope that helps. Either way, I'll see you next week.